All right, microphone check 1 2 1 2. This is Andrea Clinton, and guess what? I have the flu, and guess what? I had to take medicine, and guess what? The medicine made me not only woozy, but have weird dreams. So I'm here today to talk a little bit about the dreams that I had, how crazy they were. You guys know with this dream thing, I'm only recording those dreams that are noteworthy and crazy and possibly add on to the other dreams that I've had that I've shared. So let's just get into it. This dream, I popped right into some time, I guess the Pirates of the Caribbean era. Definitely a time when pirates are running things and they're dressed just like it. I'm talking they have the bandana tied around their head. Imagine someone taking a tie that they wear with their suit and tying it around the top of their forehead, that kind of thing going on. These people were, I cannot say that they were white or that they were people of color because they had a beigeish type of thing going on. Think like light skin black in between that and maybe Cuban or maybe Afro-Latina or Latino. And I know for a fact there were some people there who were white, and I know for a fact there were some people there who were black or African or Caribbean or something. I don't know, because I did see a mix of them as well. But I'm just saying, when I first walk in, I see a bunch of pirates. They have on those poet shirts. I almost said blouses. They have the scarf or whatever tied around their head. They have the hat that has the 3 points to it. I think in some countries, the 2 points were in the front and the one in the back. And in some countries, the 1 point is in the front and 2 are in the back. I don't get it, but it is what it is. Some of them have it tilted. Some are smoking cigars. Some are drinking. Some are already sloppy drunk. Some are coming in to get drinks. I just land. And when I land, I'm seeing there's, of course, some bartenders behind the back. There are women with their shirts half pulled off, like as if the men just get to tugging and pulling on them, just like we see in the movies and in the, the TV series that come out and where they show pirates. To the right, when you first walk in, there's the bar, right? There are seats like stools all in the front, and the bartenders in the back pouring their drinks. The girls are going in with trays and getting them. To your right, there are tables, and it looks really like the dingy side. These are the dirty pirates with the dirty beards and no teeth and whatever. And when you go further back, there's that first room. And then when you go further back, those are the ones that are dingy, dirty, but they got a little cool for them. Maybe they're not as dirty and stinky or whatever. But when you first walk in and you turn to your left, these are the gentlemen. These are probably the slave masters and the landowners and I don't know if you call them aristocrats or whatever, but these are those. And so when I first walk in, I'm like, oh boy, I already know that I'm in a space, right? I already know that I won't say that I know that I'm dreaming, but it's like, here we go. We've landed. And listen, these dreams are standalone, so you don't have to go run to the beginning. But if you do, there's certain things that I did explain. I don't mind explaining them again. In the other dreams, just like this one, I just land. I'm right there with the flow. It's almost like when you're jumping rope and you jump into the rope and you time it. And then when you come in, you just kind of like go with the flow until you figure things out. You jump in the rope once you realize, okay, that's when I'm going in. And you run in and you just start jumping, right? Same here. I just start walking in the door. I'm behind some people and there's some people coming in behind me. And so I, walk in, I kind of step to the side. I don't want to block the door. I don't want to give anybody a reason to say anything to me because the first thing I see is a bunch of pirates. And I remember thinking to myself, like, all right, is it a pirate themed party or are these real pirates? And once I realized it's real pirates, because I'm checking out the entire place is like a wooden, not so much a shack, but a shack. It's definitely wood. I peek outside, I see something of a boardwalk type of thing. I see sand. I see further out there's water. I see the beach blue sky. And I see clouds. So in my mind, like my mind is really working to tell me where I am and so that I can figure out my environment and what's going on. And again, I have been having these dreams for so long that my body and my mind work together to just be in self-preservation mode, even if it is wake your butt up. And so I'm looking around, and like I said, just that quick, I realized, okay, the really scruffy ones to my right, the not as scruffy ones to the far right, and to the left is the upper crust, right? The aristocrats. And so I don't know where I fit in. And it hadn't occurred to me, check out your wardrobe. So I just, like I said, step to the side and I start looking around. It's kind of a mix up of the West, right after slavery, when everybody was going to the West because there was gold, and then they were trying to build these trains and all of that kind of thing. And remember how the saloons were? It's very similar to that, almost to a point when I woke up, I was about to start doing the math of, I guess, the pirates and how they made things look around that time versus the Wild West, because this is how close and similar, with the wooden cabin look, the counters, the seats, everything is made of wood. Like these people know, like this is our material of the day that we make things of. And so that's why I guess I was making a comparison. And so I'm seeing the can women. That was another thing that made me think, like, okay, are we in are we in the West, the Wild West, or what? Because the girls, the women, all of them would dance and sing, and they would also be ladies of the evening, i.e. prostitutes, hoes, if you want to go that route. And so, and they were white, and they all had on powdered makeup, and they all had like the hair up with the curlies, like the little curls dripping from the side and in the back. And they had the white powder makeup on their face with the fake mold and, mold, not mold with a D, but mole, like the cute little mole that you have on your face, or that people wish they have, or they take a pencil and make. They had that, and they had same kind of poets type blouse that would go down into like a skirt or a dress and it would fall off the shoulders, and they aren't drunk, but they keep a certain swag or something with them, I guess, to make themselves look lively. And so, like I said, some are coming down the stairs, some are going up, some are with men, some are serving drinks. I did notice none of them went in the room with the aristocrats. I guess they don't want they're probably there for business and gambling, or things that they can't let their wives and sons see them do, and daughters, so they don't want the little prostitutes or whatever over there, or they'll just probably catch them in the back rooms or something. I don't know. It's just my brain overthinking. But they were on that side. I didn't even see them go in and serve the drinks, honestly. But I did see them in the rooms to my right. So I don't know. In this dream, what am I? Am I a girl? How am I dressed? What do I do? Am I like in some of those movies where the girl is dressed like a man, for survival purposes? She doesn't want to be raped or gang raped or, treated, because she's a woman, saw as weak. I didn't know. So I looked down at my clothes, and I'm telling you, it was a blur, but I swear I saw boots. I don't know if I was making myself see the boots or whatever, but everything was a real serious blur. And so I was staring, literally. If somebody looked at me, they probably would say, well, what is up with that person? Because I was making myself stare, trying to make myself see boots. And I think it's because I felt I would be safer if I looked like the men, versus what could happen to me if I look like the women, because they either were showing leg or shoulders or neck or that little space between, when your shirt is open. I don't know what they call that, but the little slit or whatever, where you would see the cleavage. You were seeing that, not necessarily cleavage, because I don't think they had push-up bras. They did have the bustiers, I think that's what they call them, but I'm not seeing them with it. So these folks is really, really poor, and it felt like, from what I gather, looking behind me and outside, I'm near a dock or a pier or something like that, not far from the loading, and they probably have a bar there. So when the guys get off the ship, they don't have to go far to go get a drink, and that's how the merchants make their money, those that sell booze or own this bar or whatever. And so I'm trying to figure out, what is my purpose here? Do I need to flee? Am I in jeopardy? Am I Black? Because I'm only seeing people that look a little more toward the white, Now, when I looked outside, I did see some people of color. When I look inside, I couldn't tell if they were Spanish or if they were Black. I didn't even see Black prostitutes. I did see some, like I said, outside working. I did see some toward the back, like they would bring in a box and push it into the room. So when I said I saw the people of color, I did see them, but they were workers. So if this was a movie, it's not that there's not Black people. They're just not the stars of the show, And it could have just been coincidental that they just weren't inside or whatever. I don't know. But I don't know. But again, and it's so hard, because like I said, there were people of color, but they were very lighter complexion. They weren't, I cannot say that I saw all white men or all white people or all Latino. It was a dream. So it was weird. So anyway, I'm trying to figure out who I am, why I am, and why am I there? What is my purpose? Like I said, I look at my clothes, it's a blur, and I'm looking around, and they're drunk. They're pushing each other. They're saying jokes, and they're, get over there and play some cards. Get your ass whooped by so-and-so. And I'm not comfortable. And so something said, just stand there. It's going to shift, or something's going to happen. You're going to float in one of these rooms. You're going to find your place. And just as quick as I said that, I shifted. And so I think a part of my mind knows that I'm asleep. But I'm so tired, and I'm not picking up any danger, so I'm not forcing myself to wake up. Okay, and just so that we can kind of place what's happening in the dream, and if it's like kind of a mashup of time periods, I Googled. And so it says the golden age of piracy is a common designation for the periods between 1650s and 1730s. And as we know, the cowboy era is in the late 1800s. So we have a mashup of time periods happening here, because I'm definitely now seeing some 1800s type things going on. So I time shift, not me, time shifts or places shift, whatever, something shifts. And I'm not there in the tavern, the pirate tavern anymore. I'm behind it. And back there's a host of people of color, Black, Latino. I don't know if it was Latino as in Spanish from the Caribbean or from Spain. I mean, considering, I would think that they were from Spain. And we know, based on Tariq Ibn Zayd, and Africans going up to Spain, during the time when the Visigoths were trying to take over Spain or whatever, and they called the Muslims, to come and to help them out, and they did, and they stayed there for hundreds of years. So we know that the Blacks were up in Europe as far as Portugal and Spain. And so in my brain, okay, this makes sense that we would be around this pirate era and that there would be, for sure, they're Spanish. They have the Spanish look going on where they have the tannish, beigeish color. I'm sorry, I'm using Martin Lawrence and other people's jokes to express what they look like. But they have this complexion going on in the hair, so I know that they are Spanish pirates. And then there are some Black pirates, and there are a lot of them. And it's weird to me because usually dreams, I get a deja vu type of a feeling. And I didn't necessarily have that, not like how it can be. It can be really thick sometimes where it's like, okay, I've been here before. I wasn't necessarily getting that, but I was comfortable in a very uncomfortable way because I was comfortable and I didn't know where the heck I was. I couldn't say, oh, that's James Street up there or what. It was just weird. But when I shifted and now I'm behind the tavern and they're sitting back there, there's these little barn fires, many actually, and they're way up to my left and way to my right, like imagine a boardwalk. And then there's the stores on the boardwalk, and then imagine the space behind the boardwalk. Well, that's how this was, except instead of it being where behind the boardwalk, you would go out and go down some ramp and walk on pavement. Instead of that, this was like dirt and grass, type of thing. And so, people are huddled around different fires and they're talking and they're drinking and there's dancing. There's, I want to say banjo, but this instrument looked a little different. Not quite like a banjo, more like an instrument of its sort in the 1700s. But there was a harmonica, and I don't know I feel like they were playing a harmonica in the 1700s, but I'm not positive. But in my dream, there was harmonica playing. But again, so this is the music, this is the radio on. Everybody's their own DJ, not that they were playing in unison, but there's something going on here. And there were people standing around and they're drinking and they either didn't want to go inside, they wanted to chill out, or they couldn't. But either way, this was the real party where things were going on in a really merry type of way, not like you're wondering if something's going to pop off, or jump off, but it was just chilling, and so I kept feeling something. Imagine, well, not only did I pop up in the back, but as if I walked really fast through the back door. So I'm facing everybody to the left, to the right, and that's directly in front of me, even if 20, 30, 40, 50 feet, I'm seeing all of this, and it's like a lot of people. And yeah, there was some can hooker looking girls back there too, but these were people of every color, even some Asian. And, again, everybody's getting along and I'm just standing there, I'm not so much now trying to figure out where I fit in, but I'm just very much more comfortable. And so all of a sudden at I guess I could say my 10 o'clock, I feel somebody there looking at me and staring. And just that quick, I go from feeling a little comfortable to knowing what's going on. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh God, that's somebody who likes me. Because they're at my 10 o'clock, but I'm facing my 12 o'clock. And not because I'm looking at someone in particular. My spidey senses was making me feel this person staring at me, their whole body stature. I can't say that they had on a top hat, but it was something similar. They had on, picture the slave masters in the 1700s. Sorry, this is the best way I can explain it. The way their coats were, and it, like a blazer that stopped, like a penguin blazer, and it stopped at the waist. And then they had on the tight, they weren't necessarily tight, but they were like knickerbocker pants that came up to their knees. And then it was like a little scrunchie around their knees, and you saw their calves with the, they had on stockings under that. So it's not even that you saw their calves because they had those on. And then they would have on their shoes, which was almost like penny loafers with a heel on it. Or either they would have on boots. And so this person is like a silhouette. And because it's kind of sort of dark out there, there's lights and everything, but unless somebody holds a light up and look, you don't necessarily see their face. You just know the person and you're talking. This is my assumption because people were talking and laughing and they could see each other, but not like inside where there was a billion candles and kerosene lights burning. Outside, there's that. But again, I guess they want it to be nighttime, to enjoy the stars or whatever. I don't know. So this person is over there like a silhouette and I could see them with one hand on their hip, but like kind of behind their hip, like as if it was some type of a positive stature stand of the day or something. And they're looking directly at me. I couldn't try to pretend that I didn't know if I wanted to. Like I could feel they are looking at me. And I go from feeling them looking at me to, like I said, staring at my 12, so my peripheral will catch them. And immediately I know that I know them and that they know me. And so now I'm like, okay, are they going to come speak? Is this going to be a flirty thing? I didn't know, but I tell you what I did know. I knew that I was a girl in that moment because that person made me feel very girly. Very, like, not even a question as to, okay, what is this scene about? And dreams are weird because sometimes they will tell you, they will narrate the story. And this was narrating to me that not only was he checking me out, and not only did we know each other, but it had been a minute since we saw each other. And he was happy to see me. And it also told me, oh, he's going to make his way over here. He's going to see you. You may as well start, gussying yourself up or something. I'm sorry, I'm using the old Southern slang words. But it was like, you better, start because he's coming. He's just admiring you to a point that is helping him work his nerves up. Now, I'm kind of like adding that little part on. But basically whatever was telling me was, he's basically getting it together mentally to come over. That's what the stare is. And so in my mind, it was, okay, what do I do? And so I'm telling you, I promise you, some of my dreams sometimes are so weird. I start taking my hand and I start moving my skirt. Now, remember, I didn't know I had a skirt. I was trying to make my boots look like men boots so that I could feel safe and not snatched and pulled to the back and raped because I'm a woman. And on top of that, I'm a Black woman. But in this dream, I still don't know what color I am. I'm assuming that I'm a person of color because everybody back there seemed to be of color. There were some whites, but they seemed to be older, mature, and educated people who knew the world, so I didn't mind being around people of different cultures. Again, my impression. And it's just my impression because I noticed it in college. Less racial people in educated in academia surroundings because they learn all the time. So they pretty much have a better view or whatever. So yeah, I do see them there, but I now know who I am. I am a woman. I'm fixing my skirt kind of... I don't want to be gross. Let me figure out how to say this. I'm pulling my skirt to make sure it's not tucked in anywhere, right? So I'm on the side and I'm kind of like pulling it a little and I'm trying to do it so that, because I know it's dark out there and I have to do this. And if you're a woman, you know what I'm talking about. I have to do this, but I'm trying to do it in a way that it's not going to be obvious or whatever. And so I'm literally feeling my right hand because he's on my left at my 10. So I'm with my right hand as I'm looking and nodding my head at people, like as if I'm saying subliminally to them, saying, not subliminally, but I'm kind of like nonverbal communication saying, hi, good evening, or whatever. As I'm looking at people, I'm taking my hand and pulling my skirt out of places, and flaring it so that it's flowing nicely. The woman in me just comes out. So now I know what's about to go down. I kind of like foreshadow this whole situation that's about to go down. And if you're a writer, When this hits you, you already know how this is going to play out. I could shut up right now and ask every one of you to take 3 minutes and as a prompt, write down what happens next, and all of you would write it, and you would probably write it the same way. So let's just write this, right? All right. So as I'm fluffing my skirt or tugging at it a little bit or whatever, and nodding to people, all of a sudden, before I can say to myself, okay, but when is he going to come? Or when is he? And then I'm saying, well, don't worry about it. Use this time to make sure you're good, because you just didn't know how you were dressed or what you looked like. So immediately I start to, take my hand and easily pass it, past my blouse. And I'm like, okay, I'm wearing a blouse. It's going into my skirt. So I'm dressed decently, So then I go to fix my hair, like take my finger to go through one of my curls. And I'm like, you're going to have to make sure that you take your finger through the curl as if you're trying to be cute. But what you're really doing is trying to make sure, do I look like everybody else? Do I have curls? Or do I have a fro? Do I have locks? Do I have braids? What's happening here? Because it's weird. I'm literally in bed, sleep, right? So I don't know I know how I went to bed. I went to bed with my hair in 2 cornrows. I had just dyed my hair, blow dried it, straightened it, put it in 2 cornrows. But I don't know how I am in my dream. And in my dream, I don't even remember that I did all of that. So I'm trying to check me out. And so I take my finger like as if I'm getting ready to swirl a curl. And I don't know if I made a curl there or not, because when I first did it, I felt a little of what felt like a braid, because it was sort of kind of like thick. It wasn't like a curl, but I think I made it because it was like, wait, what? And so I twirled my finger and it was a curl. So then I said, you're going to have to control the situation. So what I did was I made myself have, it was a black girl hairdo moment. I made myself have the curls to the front with the 2 cornrows pushed to the back. Like imagine girls, white girls will even know this too. White girls, Asian girls, Spanish girls, this is across the board. Imagine you're in the front, you took the rods and you curled your hair so you have really tight dangling curls that in the morning you're going to take and separate them so that they're dangling over your forehead, right? I did those curls. And on the sides, my hair is pushed up into 2 cornrows or 2 French braids, and then in the back, and those braids are going to be in the side, going from the front of my head, going over my ear and all the way to the back. And then in the back, I have a couple of curls on the side. This is what I made my hair look like in my dream. I controlled my dream. And I said that in the previous podcast about my dream, that I used to have nightmares when I was young. And my mother told me, listen, you're going to have to learn to control your dreams. She said, I used to have wild, vivid imagination in dreams with things chasing me and scaring me. And she said, my mother told me, you're going to have to learn to control your dreams, because sometimes it's not as easy as getting away, and people have died in their sleep. And so when she scared me to death telling me that a couple of times, I learned to control my dreams, mainly to make myself wake up, but sometimes to make things miss me or to make me have superpowers to fight back or whatever. In this instance, evidently, I want to meet people. I want to mingle. Either I know I can't leave there because I'm so new to this dream. You know how sometimes when you go to, well, I'm assuming this is normal, when you go to sleep because you're in that first stage of sleep, it's really deep and you're there. And so you try to make the best of it or whatever, whether you can control it or not. That's where I am. I'm new in the dream. I haven't been there for a while. I'm not settled enough that I can make myself wake up, and nothing is happening that would, coerce me to wake up or even tempt me to, or push me to want to wake up. And so, again, I'm controlling. I'm taking advantage. I'm here. So let me get with the program. And on top of that, for some reason, this dude dressed like the 1700s was attractive. Right? It was the look of the time, the clean look, of some type of status, with the penguin suit and the knickerbockers and all. And he's looking at me and he's getting ready to come over here. So I'm doing my little thing, with my hair or whatever. And so next thing I know, he goes from being at my 10 o'clock to guys, or guys. He was about maybe 5 steps from me, 5 or 6 feet. And so, and before that, he was probably a good 20, 30, if not more. And so now he's really close and he's like, hey, and I don't know what my name was in the dream. So let's make up one. Let's say my name was Lisa, right? I don't know. Let's say Rose. My name was Rose because we're going to try to go in that time period. Okay, guys, I'm trying to do my best. This flu is starting to try to kick my butt. I think it's time for my meds, but here we go. Okay, and we're going to say that his name was Alfred because that's a guy I used to go with when I was younger, and his personality turns out to be much like Alfred. So we're going to name him Alfred. So anyway, he comes over and he's like, hey, and again, use the language of the time. I'm just using my language to get the story out. And so he says, Rose, good to see you here. I thought I'd run into you. And I'm like, okay, so I'm from this town. This is all new to me. I'm just visiting. I just dropped in from outer space. And so I'm like, hey, Alfred, how are you? And he's like, great, good to see you. And we really must know each other because it's not like, oh, you remember my name or, And so he says, so how's everybody? How's the family? And I'm like, fine. Now, here's the kicker. If it's around the 1700s and you're saying how's the family, according to the records where I'm from, I should be a slave. Or how is this working out? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Because even up north, there was slavery. So, but it's a dream. I just may be overthinking it, but in any case, I go with the flow until things work themselves out for me. And so he says, so, hey, why don't you come on inside and we can have a drink? And so I say, okay, but then I pause because, again, I don't know how this works. I've seen different sections. And so I say, if you think it's going to be all right. And he says, I say, if you think it's going to be all right. And he says, you're with me. Still not telling me much because if you're a white man or of the lighter side that is accepted, then, and when you look at me, what are you seeing? Because that part I can't see. So anyway, I follow him in and he's like, oh, don't worry about it. My family, we have this whole section. So we go in the back and sure enough, no, I'm skipping something. Before he says that, we standing there and we're chit-chatting or whatever, and people, are looking. And evidently I have a friend, we'll call her Frida, because I don't know what, but I know she was Black. And she looked a lot like, oh my God, what is her name? Thandie Newton. Okay, I had to look it up on IMDb. So Thandie Newton is my friend. And she walks up and she's giving me this look that like, not blink twice look, but like, are you sure you want to do this? You may want to follow me. And I'm seeing her, but as a woman, when friends say and do certain things, depending, I guess, on who and what and where, you're not necessarily taking it too much to heart because they could just be blocking, or a little jealous or envious or, whatever, or just want you to spend time, or they just a little jealous because of your friendship or whatever. So I don't really know her. Heck, I just popped in and I popped in alone. So but in my dream, I'm not taking it like that. I'm taking it like I know where she's going, but I'm not biting. I'm going to talk to him, And she's like, hey, you want to come over here? I saw so-and-so, let's say Brian. I saw Brian up over there, and I saw Sue or what, and I'm like, oh, I'll catch up with them later. And by her still saying, and do you want to, I ended up saying, and I'll catch up with you later also. And she gave this look like as if, and I took it as if I'm trying to help you and you're going to brush me off. But she wasn't saying it in walking. You know how some friends would say, okay, that's your behind. She wasn't doing that. She was looking like as if you better listen to me. So something in my spirit was telling me that I'm important, she's important, and evidently I'm taking my mind off of something that's important. And because otherwise it's something that read to me that is along those lines, because if it would have been a real friendship thing, she would have been insulted and just would have kept walking and let whatever's going to happen to me happen. But she gave me a look like as if you better stick to the script or stick to, or something to that effect. And so, and I could tell it was more than just a friend thing. So somewhere in my mind, because this is the first, again, in my dreams, a lot of weird stuff happens. And in my dreams, I've been in danger. I've been in chase. I'm always running. I'm always being dropped in between different dimensions or time. I don't know how that crap works, but that stuff happens. So when weird things start to happen, my mind immediately starts to pay attention. If I was a time traveler, I would say I had a device, one in my head and one that I could probably hold in my hand, that I could immediately plug in whatever's happening, and it could tell me, what's going down or whatever. It's that type of thing. And so what I was getting from her was that, oh, you're not here by happenstance. You're here on a mission, or you're here for a reason. And right now you're about to go left. But even though he's in front of me, maybe not so much in front of me, he's now at my 9 o'clock and she's at my 12 because she inserted herself as I was turning to walk back inside following him. I'm looking at her and I'm trying to turn from her. But as I'm turning from her, my conscience is making me want to look back and no, focus, because if you focus, you can get the message she's trying to give. But then a part of my brain is seeing him when he was standing there with his hand on his hip and he was sort of like a silhouette. And I was attracted to that. And my brain is like, girl, this is what you getting ready to mess up if you listen to her. And then I said to myself, again, all of this is in my dream. Child, a brain is something else. So immediately in my brain, it is, you've looked at stature before, you've made, and this is my brain talking to me in the dream, but from real life experiences. You've looked at stature before, you've made decisions, bent rules, and done things you weren't supposed to based on stature, male stature, and it's gotten you behind in trouble. This time, you better move that to the side and not read the room, but read what's happening. Like, she's still staring at me when my brain is trying to think really fast. And I know he's waiting, so eventually he's going to say, are you coming or whatever? And so just that quick, I thought to myself and I said, don't go. But then something said, girl, go. What's the worst case scenario? You just leave. You just jet up out of there. Or you just, if it's something that you're not supposed to do, that's bad, or you don't want to do or whatever. So I chose to do what I wanted versus read what she was giving me. And she was giving it full force with her eyes. And so, and I'm still tall, so I'm looking down at her. I can imagine she's about 5'4" or something like that, 5'5" maybe. And I'm like 5'11" and some change. So I'm looking down at her and she's trying to do things while she's talking to me, to play it off. So anyway, I decide I'm going with him and I'm like, I'll come back out. And then she's still looking at me and I'm following him and he's got his hand out and not so much his hand out to hold my hand, but because he's being so respectful that it makes me feel like either I'm not Black or in this universe, there's no racism and all of that kind of thing. Or because we know that they did take Black women as wives and had families on the side from their white wives and families. We've seen TV series about it. We've read books about that. So either it's that or I don't know. But so far, I'm not catching racism, even though I'm the main one talking about race. I'm not catching that there, right? So anyway, I follow him and we're starting to go in, and I'm noticing that we're walking a really long time. And although the place doesn't look that big, the more I'm following him and he's talking to me, I'm noticing I'm getting sidetracked by the people that I'm seeing. And they're sitting to the side, and where he's taking me, I'm seeing women, and they're mixed with men. And nobody's doing anything like Sodom and Gomorrah type stuff, or what Moses caught people doing in the caves when he broke the 10 Commandments. It's not that type of a party. At least that's not what I'm seeing. But I'm noticing something in the tension, the outside free, mixing of people, no matter what color, still drinking, still seeing some smoke or whatever, I guess from people smoking the peace pipe or just smoking cigars or whatever, still seeing that kind of thing inside. But the smoking in the room, the hue in the room was yellow. And it was sometimes going from like a yellowish to like a sky bluish, not even just a regular blue hue, but sky bluish, with all the cigar smoke, with the drinks passing, with the people walking with the trays of food and drinks, with the aristocrats playing cards. And the part that I said, I wasn't sure of if there was women or whatever. Oh, they're there. And but they're respectful, and they're just like me, blouse and skirt. There's no cleavage, there's no skin, showing like the can girls. But they're there. And I don't know if they just, trying to impress themselves by having the girls, dressed or whatever. I don't know, and I don't know. So anyway, I'm following him, and he's talking to me, and I'm being sidetracked from his body language, what he's saying and how he's saying it, because I'm looking at everybody, and it was almost like it caught me in a whirlwind. And so I'm looking to my left, and I see this girl, and she's laughing, and her face got big, like as if you ever see those music videos, and there'll be the camera's on them one way, and then all of a sudden the lens makes their face curve, kind of roundish, and their face and lips and everything gets really big and huge. Almost like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas with Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. Remember? Like just weird things. And I'm saying to myself, I remember saying, am I getting high from like that yellow smoke? And as I say it, I'm looking, and I see like big gushes of it kind of like spurts out into the air in the distance. And again, now he does have my hand, and does he? I think he did, or it felt like he did. And then when I would look, it wasn't him touching me, pulling me, although he was pulling me. And I'm literally following him, not missing a beat, but I'm still, my eyes glued to everything on my left and on my right. So to my left, like I said, I see the person's face get all big, lips get big, and then it goes back to normal. And then I'm seeing the people behind them. They're talking to each other, looking at each other, looking at me, looking at everybody else. They're just so caught up in everything. And it just looks like they're all high and messed up. And then the more that I'm following him as he's talking, I'm hearing him, and I'm acting like I'm listening to him, but I'm checking out my environment. So now I'm looking over to the right, and I'm seeing the men from the 1800s, on the right with the different women and the gambling and the drinking, and they're acting a little worse than they were. They were a little conservative earlier. Now they're more liberal, and the shirt collar is a little opened, and, so on and so forth. And so by me being so nosy and checking out the left and the right, it occurred to me that I'm not paying attention to him. And I just said, what? And I, like in a drunken stupor type of a mood or a feeling, I'm like, what? And as I do that, I look towards him, and I notice my vision is, I wasn't seeing them bugging or looking at them like as if it's in film, it's called German expressionism. I'm thinking that I'm looking at them and seeing how they feel, but that's not how I feel. It's just me seeing how they feel through some type of German expressionism lens or something. And that's what I was peeping the whole time I'm following him on this long journey. But then when I look at him, I realize, no, this is how you are seeing things because of all this freaking yellow smoke that's in the air. And then I'm like, okay, so I remembered immediately that my mother used to say, when you're dreaming, if someone you know who is dead tries to tell you to come with them, do not go, because you can die in your sleep following them to where they are in death. And so I'm looking, but I'm like, he's not dead though. He's right here. Then I'm like, you don't know that he's dead, not dead. This is what I'm saying in my mind as I'm following him. I'm like, you don't know that he's not dead. You need to try to figure out who he is. And then you can decipher if he's dead or not. Which is weird because the guy I used to go with named Alfred, who I named this character after, is dead. I didn't notice just now when I started telling you, and I said, let's call him Alfred. It's just that his personality reminded me of him. So I figured let's just, because I don't want to use the name everybody else knows. So let's just use his real name. So, but it's weird because he's, like I said, he's dead too. But anyway, so I said, okay, I'm going to try to figure out his face, because when I'm sleeping, faces, it could be one extreme or the other. I could see the face very clear, or it could be a fog. And sometimes when it's a fog, I'm not going to see the face no matter what. So what I tried to do was a little psychology and act like I didn't care. Like, oh, can't see the face. Oh, whatever. Because again, I'm starting to be in self-preservation mode because I'm seeing the yellow smoke and I'm really in the thick of it. I've been following him for a minute now. Like, time is passing, if you picture how footsteps are, I'm in it, And so, and meanwhile, I'm still in it as I'm walking and putting things together in my mind. And so he's like, yeah, imagine him. And so, and right after you left, we ended up going to high school. And then when we went to high school, we ended up graduating. And then, we imagine that kind of thing, like just constantly talking to me so that I'm focused on listening to him and I'm not paying attention that he's taking me in deeper. And that part I did get. And so that's when I said, you better freaking hurry up and make out his face so you can figure out if he's dead, because at least if he's not dead, you can still go knowing he's just taking you someplace to see whatever. But if you don't open your freaking eyes up and see through whatever is blocking you from seeing his face, you're going to end up passing some kind of threshold and your butt will be dead, because I'm thinking of what my mother said, And so I'm trying to, play it off so that, I don't make myself get a blocker. And then at the same time, try to steal some real glances. And it's hard to explain, but it was like as if my eyes were, if let's say that there's 3 phases of your eyes seeing, they weren't aligned. And so as I turned my head, it would take a second for them to align. So I'm trying to do that, looking from the left and the right, and in between time in my mind, piece together what face that I'm seeing, who this person is. And so sure enough, I finally get the face and I see that it's totally dream. So meaning fiction. In the dream, I know this person, but in real life, it's not someone that I know, because I remember saying, I don't know him. So I don't have to worry about, whether or not he's dead or alive. I can either keep going on a journey or make my way back. And so I decide I'm going to go on the journey, but let me see how far I came. And so I stop, and then he stops like, no, come on. You want to go. Remember, you want to. And I'm like, yeah, but give me a second. Like, and I said it really stern to him, like, give me a second. Like, I'm not an idiot. I'll break off from you and get lost around here with something or somebody else. I'm not an idiot. You're not just going to pull me. Let me figure out what's what, or get my bearings and feel comfortable in going. This is what I'm feeling. And when I say to him firmly, give me a minute. And so I stop, and then he stops, and he's looking around. He looks, somebody might say, oh, he looks nervous, like he's up to something, but it just seemed like he had this jolly old personality. One was excited to see me. 2, was excited to hang with me. 3, to be with someone, because when I think back to it, it was like as if the person that he was talking to, he struck the conversation and held the conversation down. Not that the person wanted to be there. They could have easily talked to someone else. So I think by him coming and talking to me and seeing that I was nice, or willing to talk to him, it made him happy to be with someone who wanted to be with him or something. Again, this is just the vibe I got. But anyway, I'm making him stop. And then I turn back, I look at the door, and I'm like, damn, that whole way, and I probably am no more than about 20, 25 feet. Why did it seem like such a distance? So then I look back at him, and he's like, you okay? Like, I'm bugging. Like, he didn't see the yellow smoke floating around and the sky blue smoke. The sky blue smoke was to the right, to the left was the yellow smoke. And it's like as if he didn't see this, And so I said, no, I'm fine. And I wanted to say, did you see it? But at the same time, I didn't want to seem like a buzzkill or like a little party pooper or whatever, and then also I just didn't know how things could go or why I was there. So I didn't want to say anything to throw anything off. And now he's starting to act normal, even, I guess, because I made things stop. And so even though the smoke is still going, I'm not, when you move, your head is kind of like boppy, boppy, as you're walking, as if somebody's pulling you or whatever. But again, every time I felt him pulling me, but every time I looked, he was not touching me. But it was like he was still pulling my spirit or something forward. And so when I see that I'm not that far from the door, I'm like, okay, you're probably just bugging. Just go ahead and follow him. Or since you're right there, you're not far from the door, go back. So I get a picture of Thandie Newton. Remember from Norbit? She played in Eddie Murphy's Norbit. That's the character that I told you that I saw that was warning me, like giving me this look like, what you doing? And while I'm standing there with him and I look back at the door, I'm seeing Thandie's face and I'm seeing her look like, the hell are you doing? And so then I said, you know what? Go out. You can always come back in. Go out. And then I said to myself, just immediately, I guess I started mixing a little bit of being in the dream and being in a little reality started kicking in, because I said, what would you tell your kids? Wouldn't you tell your kids, get to reality, because you can always go back? And so I said, get to reality. And if you find that you're bugging, it's nothing, you can always come back. But you're not that high off of this yellow blue smoke that's got you bugging. So get the hell out of here. And if it's nothing, you can always come back. And so he must have seen in my face, that's where I was. So he gives the guilt trip. Oh, please don't leave. I enjoy, the little time that we've spent. It's almost like we've spent a lifetime. And I look back at the door and I said, you realize that I feel like you feel like it's been a long walk. Like we've been walking at least 10, 15 minutes. But you see the door is right there, right? That's been a really short distance with that long story that you just told me. And he said, yeah, it's like that sometimes though. The journey seems long, but the walk is very short. He said, that's just life. But you know that already. And so I'm thinking I'm supposed to take that. So somewhere in my brain, I took it and I tucked it. Like, I feel like I'm going to need this later, whether it's when I'm asleep in the dream somewhere or whatever. And so I said, yeah, I think I'm going to go back out, because I did have something to do. I could see in Thandie's eye that I had something to do. I don't know what the child name is. I'm just going to go with Thandie. But I said I could see in her eyes that I had something that I had to do. And so I'm just going to go back out. I don't want to mess anybody up or anything. So let me check that out. And if everything is fine, then I'll come back. And then he said, you're not going to come back. I said, I am. I promise you, I am. And so he said, no, you're not. If you go back outside, you're going to leave me and you're not going to come back. And I'm going to be here and I'm going to be, alone. I'm going to miss you. And I was like, how are you going to miss me? You went how long without seeing me? I was like, we just saw each other outside and we haven't seen each other in who knows how long. How are you going to miss me? And he said, if I were you, I wouldn't go back out there. And I'm like, okay, who do you trust, her or him? Now, mind you, I just popped in at the front door alone. So I don't know her and I don't know him. But she just gave me a look. She didn't try to force me to go with her or try to talk me into it. She just looked at me like, girl, really? And he is giving me word game. He's trying to win me over with staying. And I know how Satan works. Satan whispers. A lot of times we forget, but he's probably one of the best whisperers. And so in my mind, you who not necessarily have the gift of gab, but who's trying to gab, trying to talk me into staying, I feel like you're the one I should be leery of. This is what I'm thinking in my head. So I decided to turn and to start to walk. Can I tell you, something in his whole body enveloped from the inside out. Like, you ever see when it's really big and explosive and how it roars like a mushroom and it kind of folds, and something like that was happening within him. And it went to go bust out. And I saw Thandi trying to, like, her spirit just rose up. Her body rose up into like a spirit and tried to come in the window to save me. And she was going to hurt herself in doing it, because I could see as she was starting to come to the window, she was diminishing. Like, even though her body was turning into like a spirit to come in, it wasn't even enough for her to make it in. I saw it start to diminish. But then something else thicker and stronger came through the door. It was more than just one. It came from, not through the door, through the window. And then some others like just came, and they came at him, and and I immediately saw what it was. It was relatives. It was ancestors. And they crushed. When I tell you, I wish I could think of some things to explain what they were becoming to crush him. But it was a lot of them, and they did not want him to get me. They didn't want him to take me further or to change me. I watched as Thandi, when I saw them as a sort of smoke come through the window, through the window, and not just thick, but they were roaring as well, but they weren't dark like him, like black. He was turning from other colors, but turning black the more that his mushroom was enveloping and rising through his stomach into his chest and starting to burst out. And then as they were coming in, they were like a dark blue. Some of them, they looked like they could have been kind of a black smoke, but as I looked, they were mostly like a dark blue. And then Thandi was like a more of a greenish whatever, but she again was starting to diminish. Her smoke was starting to like dissipate. But then because they came in, I noticed her spirit kind of backed up. And as it backed up, she started to go from smoke to forming into whatever physical she was. And so all of a sudden, all the spirit from my ancestors on both sides, on my father's side and my mother's side, they began to like circle around this person that was leading me. And it was a small little bit of opening, and it was some light that was coming, I guess, from whoever this person was. They, I guess, had evil and good. And the good, my favorite color is yellow, so I'm thinking this is why. But the good was like a yellow that was like a sunshine that was, because he was no longer a physical person now. He is like just a black tuxedo, whatever them colonial suits with, like I said, the penguin suits or whatever. He's just a black suit now. There's no face. It looked like burnt charcoal, like a piece of wood, after a fire, like the beam. It was that, just pure burntness. And the gloves that he had on his hands, which should have been assigned to me, all of everything. There was no, even like to his knickerbockers, which were a lighter color, like a tannish color. His whole everything was just black. And then after the clouds or whatever, and I looked, I could see them when they came, but I couldn't turn my head to see what they did. All I know is whatever it was that they did, by the time I was able to turn my head to see, to stop looking at Thandi, to look at what they formed around him, by the time I was able to turn and see that, that's when I saw this little opening in front of him, because he was facing me. And it was like as if their hands were around and holding both sides of my family, stopping him from coming at me to hurt me. And then a little yellow light was kind of like opening up and shining on like the floor. And it was like coming like towards me. And it was like, but it wasn't telling me to go with him. It was like whatever good was in this person was coming out just to say, go now. And as I was turning to walk, I remember thinking to myself, the goal of every man is to let their good outweigh their bad, so that on the day of judgment, they can inherit the paradise, or some believe heaven, as opposed to inheriting the hellfire. And so that yellow, I guess, was just the good in him trying to do something to offset the bad he was doing wherever he was trying to lead me. And so it was, saying, like, in other words, it came to me in a way, I guess, that I'm assuming it came to me as a yellow because it knew it was my favorite color. So it was like a peace offering or something. I don't know for sure, but it was just weird that it came in a really nice yellow. It had a small little beam of white through it, but it was yellow and it was spreading in a path coming towards me. And so then I turned and I went to walk to the door. And that's when I realized, because I started seeing what could have been on my left and my right. As my body turns and I start to walk to the door, I see what could have been if I would have just kept blind following him. And what I'm seeing is a bunch of darkness starting to overcome me. Me deciding too late to leave and to turn around and go back out with Thandi, but it's too late. And I end up lost in there trying to find my way, running and sitting with people, and they are, here, join me with this and then I'll help you out, and join me, that kind of thing would have happened. And then no one would have ever helped me, but they would have been like Misery who loves company, and they would have just kept on until finally I was imprisoned like them and stuck there in a hell where I could have never left out, could have never found my way. And I'm seeing all of this because they're like floating like mirages on my left and my right, like on like my waist level up a little higher, my head level and up a little higher. I'm seeing just different scenarios of me constantly trying to get out and leave and can't, because of these other forces. And so then finally I get to the door, because I'm looking at this while I'm walking, and I get to the door and I see Thandi and she's putting her hand out like to help me, but I'm scared. I don't trust nobody at this point. I don't want to touch nobody's hand. I don't just move, But the door opens and I start to walk out and I get scared. And something said, just don't even look back. Just go. You don't even know what this was about. Something in it was about something. You could work it out. Think about it later. Just go. And so I walk out the door, and I think she understood that I didn't want to touch her or go near her or whatever. And so I just started walking. And I walked past the people who were sitting back there, because in my mind, y'all still in a form of a hell, even though that didn't seem like hell, it was a darkness. And in my mind, it's like, whereas before it seemed all good because y'all weren't inside with the prostitution and the gambling and stuff like that. Y'all were back here, a bunch of people of color, and it all seemed really good. I mean, it was, like I said, whites too, but even though it just didn't seem like it was as hellish and dark, even when I was inside, when I first got there, it just seemed very dark and like, ugh, and so, but the behind seemed better, before, but now that I come out, it's almost like I see a little bit better now. And I see like, no, y'all in a dark place too. You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking at them as I'm walking. I'm like, Y'all not in the place to be. And so then all of a sudden people are looking at me and they're raising their drinks to me and some are waving to me like to come over and have a seat. They wasn't doing it when I first pulled up. But now it's like, come here. And I was like, wow. On the inside, I saw what could have happened. People inside, pulling me and locking me in and not, allowing me to, or telling me what a back door was so I could leave because misery loved company. And that would have been a sort of hellish state of mind. And then I get outside and I find out, okay, it's a little better, but it's the same thing. You know what I mean? It might be a group of my peers or people who look like me or similar, but it's the same old. Like they're like the people inside, they're just outside, and I'm like, so I start walking on this back boardwalkish type of thing. Because remember I said before in the front, it looked like a bit of a boardwalk, then the sand and then the ships or whatever and the docks or whatever. But this is behind, and it's instead of being like the other boardwalk in Atlantic City or whatever, where there's like this ramp that you walk on till you hit the cemented streets. Instead, you go out the back door of these taverns and you just hit a bunch of grass. And eventually it's just different paths through the woods where you can go wherever. So I decided to walk parallel to the buildings because I didn't know it was in the woods either. So I just decided to just keep on walking. And the more that I walked, the more I got away from the people who were sitting behind the taverns. And so then I start seeing some restaurants and I see some people sitting behind the restaurants. And it's not as many people. It's just, a couple of tables and, some people sitting back there. And some woman, she looked Asian, like she might have been Philippine or something. She said, it's rough down there, ain't it? And I shook my head like, yeah. I said, what was that? She said, I don't know. I don't want to find out. And so then somebody else said, take a load off. And I was like, nah. And then somebody else said, yeah, I was like that too. I just kept walking till I got to a place where I was comfortable. And I said, how long did that take? They said, I don't know. There's no way to tell time here or something to that effect. And so the whole time I'm walking, I'm noticing Thandi is to my right. And I know they say angels be to your right. So I didn't know if she was an angel or if she just was, I didn't know. But I just was thankful that I didn't feel like I was by myself. But it was still always some form of a darkness to my left, though. And every time I would look over there, I didn't see anything, but I felt it. And feeling it sometimes could make me see a little black smoke. Not a lot, but just like if I saw it, just as quick as I saw it, it would disappear. And if I took a second look, it'd be gone. And not all the time, but, whenever I thought about it and I would look, if I turned real fast and I look, I may or may not see the quick black smoke or whatever, but it just made me feel like, okay, that's the dark side or the evil side that's over there. Because when I looked to my right, I just saw Thandi, and she was, I want to say she was walking, but she had on a green gown, and I didn't necessarily see her feet, so I don't know if she was gliding or what, but I just know that she was to my right, and I only saw enough of her face to be able to say that, wow, that's Thandi from Norbit, and her hair was like back in like a little ponytail. She didn't have makeup on or anything. She looked very innocent and very like as if she was there to calm me or to assure me it's okay. Just, So I don't know what that dream was about. I kept walking and I got to a point, it was the end of the boardwalk or the stores that's on the back of the stores that's on the boardwalk. And I was saying to myself, like, okay, you could walk through the woods, uncharted territory. And I don't know if you guys were in college or high school and you read Young Goodman Brown, but I read it. I'm not quick to walk through no darn woods, especially when I start to realize that I'm in one of them weirdo dreams, especially when I was just saved by, be it a God or be it my ancestors or whatever. It was still a mercy from the Creator. And I'm like, I'm not going to jump from the hot pot into the frying pan. So I'm not going into the woods. And so I didn't know what to do. And I didn't want to sit behind a restaurant, because because after that little tavern part with the whole pirate situation, it was just restaurants and they were of different cultures. It was a Japanese restaurant. It was remember I said the Philippine woman, that was a Philippine restaurant. There was a Thai restaurant. There were a couple of African restaurants. There were some Caribbean restaurants. And I'm just walking with Dandy past like all of them, just trying to like cool off, catching this breeze and trying to figure out like, what did I just escape? And, I'm just going for the walk. And I'm like, and it had occurred to me, what's going to happen when you get to the end of the boardwalk? Like, can you come back and choose which store you're going to sit behind like some of these people? Because every store had people behind it. There was never a store that was just empty. There was always a couple of people, even if it was just a handful, or if it was another, not big, but medium-sized group. But there was always somebody sitting behind, and then there was always some inside. And inside, most of them, it was either clear, or it was like a white kind of smoke, or it just looked a little, some stores looked grainy, like film grain. Some of them looked like a mirage type of and some, like I said, were just clear. They looked regular, like not a problem. But after that experience, I just didn't want to go inside any of them. I just didn't trust them, and I always suspect that, like the jaw, he will say, oh, this is heaven. And then on the other side, this is hell. And the one that he says is heaven is actually hell. And the one he says hell actually heaven. I didn't want to take a chance. So I just kept walking. And now I'm at a point where I have to decide, what am I going to do? Am I going to stop, or am I going to go walk through the woods? If I do stop, how long am I going to stay there? Where I am, do I get hungry? Do I, need to use the bathroom like other people? What happens here? And I didn't get any of those answers. And I just started slowing down my pace. And, I started praying and saying, God, please lead my feet. Please help me, because I'm too scared to go into the woods. And I feel like if I set up shop behind one of these stores, I'm bound to it. I don't know what to expect from it, or the other neighboring stores, because they were all of these buildings were touching each other. It was like a long row. You know how it is on a boardwalk. And so I just didn't know what to do. And so I ended up stopping, and between the last building and the woods, it was probably about a good 200, 300, 400 feet, maybe longer. I'm not good with, distance like that, but I just stopped and I sat somewhere in between, and I said, I just kept praying. And I said, you know what, I'm going to end up doing like some other people I know, where you just sit and meditate and just wait for God to, the creator of heaven and earth, to just tell you which way to go and what to do, because I'm not going to use my own brain. That's how I got in this crap in the first place. I could have, granted, something did shift me when I first walked in from inside the tavern to behind the tavern, but I could have just stayed there. I could have said, sorry, sir, I don't know you. Or I could have, when I saw him walking, I could have tried to move away so that I could observe more. I just didn't trust my brain. I didn't trust anything around me, and I didn't trust my line of thinking. And so I just pretty much turned myself over to the creator, and I just sat there and I meditated. And not no strong meditation where you, or, with your fingers up and, thinking about being in outer space. Sometimes that's how I meditate. I think about being in outer space. But I wasn't doing any of that. I just sat down and I just didn't think of anything. I didn't allow my brain to think of anything that made sense. I just sat until I felt like the creator would speak to me and tell me what to do, or remove me from there and zap me someplace else, like what happens in my dreams. So that's what I did. And I don't even know what happened after that. I just know I had, I guess, another dream, because I don't remember how that one ended. I just remembered being in the midst of another dream and then waking up with my throat extremely dry, because again, like I said, I have the flu. And so, And so I don't know if that dream was in part because I have the flu, or because I have the flu and was taking medicine, or if I would have had that dream anyway. But that was my dream, and I just wanted to come and share with you some of my, as I mentioned, I would share my crazy dreams. But that one, although I'm sharing, I don't know for sure if it's connected to the other dream series that I was talking about, where I'm just thrown into a place and then when I'm tossed in there, I can be snatched up or something comes running after me and I'm being chased and me and whoever are trying to survive. And just as soon as we seem to get a little settled, then here comes something chasing us again. Dream I've been having forever, very similar to what you see the people doing The Walking Dead as soon as they get comfortable someplace, although they get to stay some places for years though. For me, I think I'm at places for at max a few days or what seems like maybe a few days. But I can't say if this dream was in that same series of dreams, if it's connected or the only thing that I could say that makes me think it may be is the fact that I just was thrown into it. I just walked through the door like everybody else. I don't know where I was before that. Maybe I had just laid down. And then after standing there trying to figure out, okay, in this dream, am I a man or a woman? Am I a tomboy? Am I dressed like a man for protection? Like, what's up? And I went from thinking about that to being just removed and put to the back of the tavern. And then all of a sudden I see I have on a skirt and a blouse and I'm a girl. You know what I mean? So that makes me feel like maybe there's some connection because the other dreams that I have, I'm thrown into them. And then if the tough gets going, I know how to make myself wake up, so I don't get killed in these dreams. But that's the only thing that makes me think that it could be, but I just don't know because the mood, the feeling and everything was different and nothing came after me to hurt me. And I was saved by my ancestors and it was very clear that, these were my ancestors. So, and what I loved about it, I'm sorry, this flu is horrible. But what I loved about it was the fact that all my ancestors had circled this thing and were holding hands. It was like my Clintons were on my right side and my Carters were on the left side and they were just holding hands around it. And I don't know if they were holding hands around it to harm it or holding hands around it to conceal it and while I got away, or block it, I don't know. And then if I analyze it before I go, I have to think about a few things. Like I have to think about the fact that I come into a dream and I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to pass go. And so then the dream takes me from there and moves me. And now there's no blue and yellow smoke, but it just looks like a saloon that's mixed between periods. And it takes me to the back. And then when I get to the back, all of a sudden now I'm a woman. I have on a blouse and a skirt. So some things have been worked out for me. And then as I'm a woman, right, in real life, I'm single. And so here I am, a woman with a blouse and a skirt on, right? And there's this man with this upright stature who's, tall and, of the time would be seen as well-dressed and statuesque, right? He has on all the garments, all the clothes that a man of wealth would have on, right? He's standing up in such a positive manner, and then he's bold enough to come over and to say hi and speak to me. Like everything about that just kind of made me start feeling like, and sometimes I could dream things that it's not about me. It's been about my daughter or it's been about another relative, whether I told them about it or not, or I just recognized it and said, whoa. But it's just weird to me that in real life I'm single and and everybody, wants the perfect person. I just hold out until I meet the person that, I know we're right for each other. And in my dream, it's almost like as if there was a vulnerable side of me that I think was exposed to me via the dream. You know what I mean? Standing over there, fixing my skirt, trying to look nice for this statuesque man of some wealthy means, who likes me and decides to come over and just that quick. Oh, let me take you inside. Let me show you something. And my simple behind, I almost said simple as, goes instead of saying, well, no, I'm going to stay out here or whatever. I go. And then it takes someone else with a kinder, more rash face and stance to stand in front of me and say, hey, what are you doing? And then I still ignore it and I go. You know what I mean? Without even a second thought, like, I wonder why she could be telling me not to go. Like, evidently she knows here. I'm new here, you know. Instead of thinking, I just go. So I don't know. Maybe there's something in that for me to think about. But it was just really different. And I haven't had a dream that made me, you know, start thinking about my decision to be single and hang on till, you know, my prayers are answered and I meet Mr. Right, you know. But this was one of them. And so, again, could have just been the cough syrup, the NyQuil, and the whatever else I took, you know, together that made my dream just kind of blend in a bunch of different things, especially because you figure one was about pirates, and for sure there were pirates. And then there was the Wild West looking can women dressed, you know what I mean? So I don't know. But anyway, as usual, I love being able to share my dreams via the podcast. And my last one, I do have another I have to put out. I may put them out at the same time or I may wait. I'm not sure. But I just want to say thank you to everybody who listened to the first one on my podcast. I had several hundred downloads, and then on the YouTube version that I placed, and I believe I placed pictures on that one for those who like a visual, like the ones who like to just listen via their car or on a podcast, you know, they'll just go to the podcast platforms, Spotify, iHeart, Apple, Audible, or whatever. But some people like to go on their TV or their computer or their iPad or tablet or their phone, and they want to, you know, watch the visual. So I try to include the visual with some pictures that, you know, I can find or whatever, especially now that I'm learning AI and all of that, I can be a little more creative. But the podcast had hundreds of downloads of people interested, and they listened to majority, if not all, most of them listened to all, but there were some that listened to majority of the podcast. And then some of them returned because, you know, the stats can show you those who stopped and those who came back and listened or whatever. And so some returned to listen to hear the whole thing out. And I was surprised to see that people were really that interested in hearing the story or hearing my dreams. And then when I put it on the video on YouTube, I think I might have gotten about 500 or close to 500 views. It just really touched me. And I said, okay, wow, they're inspiring me to tell my dreams because, again, sometimes I don't know what these dreams mean, but sometimes they seem so impactful, like so powerful, like what, why, how come, you know? And so to be able to share them, it makes me feel great. And I've even met some friends. Some people said something to me in the comments or they DM'd me, and either they told me they have dreams as well, or they said they love listening to the dreams. But some people, believe it or not, told me they don't dream at all. So they love listening to the dreams because they said, you know, wow, like I wish I could dream like you. And some people said I dream, but I don't dream as vivid as yours. I wish that I did because I'm trying to sort them out. And then some people did say that they interpret dreams. And I don't think that I think one or two did try to tell me what they thought the interpretation was, and I would have to go back and listen or read it or whatever. But most of them just seemed to really appreciate listening to the dream. And it touched me so much because I said, wow, I don't feel so alone, because for years I've wondered, like, whoa, what was that dream about? And sometimes it made sense and sometimes it didn't. Now, this dream didn't make sense, but it ends with me just sitting and just not doing anything, just waiting to either, you know, I guess wake up or, you know, see what's the direction to go in, you know, and instead of going into the woods, you know. And so I just kind of sit and I wait. And so for me, that was closure enough. Once I woke up and I thought about the dream that I had was right before I woke up, was not that long. And I did remember a few little bits about it, but I remembered this dream because right after I skipped from that dream to the next one, which was very brief, when I woke up, I remembered this dream more and the details more, because everything stood out like a sore thumb, versus the shorter one that was, and I think that might have just been a vehicle to get me to wake up or something. I don't know. But anyway, thank you so much for listening to my dreams. I will figure out whether I'm going to put this episode out. Seems like it would make sense if I put it out now while I'm still sick. So if I get more dreams, I can make it Flu Chronicles or something, NyQuil Chronicles. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But again, thank you so much for listening. And please subscribe. It really does help me to be able to tell more stories. I never thought my dreams would be part of my storytelling, but I appreciate everything and I appreciate you listening. So subscribe so that you can be notified when I put out more episodes and when I put out some of my other projects. And thank you again so much for listening. This is Andrea with my dreams, and I'm just saying.